Hey there, it's Olivia-Savannah here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and today I'm here to do the rewind repeat tag. So this tag was created by Hannah from Ladette M, and in this tag you're supposed to go to your Spotify rewind repeat playlist and then find your top played songs and artists and then recommend a book based on that, connecting them however which way you want, and you can't double up on artists. But unfortunately I don't use Spotify, so I don't have that playlist, but I do have all of my own music and iTunes does a similar thing. So I decided to just share some of my favourite artists that I've been listening to so much lately and talk about some of these books. I'll leave a link to Hannah's original video down below, so if you want to join in you can. So I love music. It's actually one of my biggest passions other than reading and yoga and writing. I've got a lot of passions here. And it's something that I'm very interested in but I'm not very good at. Like, I can't sing, I don't play many instruments other than one, but I do really love studying music, analysing it, learning the terminology for voices and compositions, and therefore I listen to a lot of music. And just like my reading and writing taste, it's a wide range of genres and types of artists and such, but I've really got some favourites at the moment and I can't wait to talk about them while also talking about books. So the first artist I want to talk about is Labrinth. I've been a huge fan of Labrinth ever since his first song, but over time Labrinth has just really come into his own, and he is brilliant at composing music, at DJing it, at singing himself. He is basically the word Afrofuturism in an artist. His latest music is just off the charts amazing. I love it, I adore it, and it's just fantastic. And because it's so Afrofuturist, I have to recommend an Afrofuturism book. But rather than recommend a fiction book, I've decided this time to recommend non-fiction, and that is Afrofuturism by Ytasha L. Womack. So I've talked a little bit on this channel about how I'm writing an Afrofuturism focused dissertation at the moment, and this is one of the non-fiction books that has just been incredibly insightful and helpful. If you've got any interest in Afrofuturism and learning more about the genre in a larger scale, then I really recommend reading this book. It's not only focusing on Afrofuturism as a concept and Afrofuturist literature, but it branches into Afrofuturist everything. Afrofuturist science, maths, physics, Afrofuturist music, Afrofuturist fashion, and I really liked how it combined all of those elements into this book and really unpicked some of the core elements of Afrofuturism. The next artist I need to recommend to you is Chloe X Halle. I have been big fans of them. I used to listen to a lot of covers online before people were picked up, so Chloe X Halle were people who I listened to when they were both just doing covers in their room together, and now they've just come such a long way. They've been signed and they make beautiful music. Honestly, their voices harmonize so well, and for them I'm going to be recommending a poetry collection, and that is There Are More Beautiful Things Than Beyonce by Morgan Parker. So of course there's a Beyonce connection here, I had to do that for them. But I also really like this poetry collection because it's combining some of the classic forms of poetry with some of the more contemporary ones. So it doesn't quite lean into the insta poetry trend, but it is a bit more simplistic than some of the other contemporary poetry that I've read, and I really like that fusion of the two tastes, because I'm not a fan of insta poetry, but I like that this felt very contemporary and this felt very topical, and it's talking a lot about beauty, about blackness, about womanhood and femininity, and it's covering a whole range of topics in this poetry collection. I forgot to mention I'm not picking out particular songs, basically I'm just doing the artist's vibe as a whole. So the next one I need to talk about is Noah Cyrus, and I am a huge fan of Noah Cyrus, even more than Miley Cyrus at the moment, even though I do like what she's doing with rock music. But that's beside the point. Noah Cyrus is really hitting it for me. I am a country music fan. I know a lot of people are like, country music, what is that? But I love country music, and I think Noah Cyrus is doing a brilliant job of like making it country music but also making it sad, making it emotional, and her meanings and messages in her songs are often really dark and about loneliness and depression and trying to figure out life and things like that, and I think she's doing that incredibly well. Her live performances have absolutely improved over time, and I just really wanted to keep making some of that aesthetic, really truthful music, and for that one I wanted to choose a book that has a theme of loneliness and also about truth, and for that I chose We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. So this is a young adult contemporary that follows Marin, and she went to university and left everything about her past behind. She doesn't want to think about it, and she even left behind her best friend Mabel. But the time is coming up when Mabel is coming to visit her at university, and it's all about unpicking the past, what really happened that made her want to run away from everything that she's known. And this book was a really quiet book in a way. It was beautiful, it was slow moving, it was atmospheric, and although the plot twist didn't blow me out of the water completely, I do think it really struck home about loneliness, about truth, what this can mean to you, and how your identity can shift and change based on the information you do or do not know about yourself. And I think that was just, it encapsulates some of the themes that Noah is talking about, and I really liked the slightly romantic thing that it had going on here, but also a friendship that was mentioned, a kind of off the page friendship, if you will. I thought that was lovely, and I just really enjoyed reading this book. I now want to talk about Misty Easy. Misty Easy just makes such happy tunes and vibes. It's Afro beats, and it just, every time I hear his music, it reminds me of summer. There's those chill, very summery vibes that you just want to bathe in when the sunshine is out, like it is at the moment. So I've been listening to a lot of Misty Easy. I don't think every single one of his songs are for me because a lot of them do sound the same, but it's perfect as a playlist to put on in the background while you're reading or while you're relaxing or while you're studying in summertime. And I just wanted to recommend a book that brings me joy, that is a young adult contemporary and kind of reminds me of the summer happiness feels. And for that one I have When Dimple Met Rishi by Sandhya and Menon, and this one is about Dimple, who is really a computer coding kind of girl, and she really wants to go to this convention which will help her in that path of her career, whereas her parents just want her to settle down, get married and find the man that's going to be for her future. And what she doesn't know is that her parents have tried to set her up with someone at this convention, and it kind of goes from there, and it's about when Dimple met Rishi, the person who they're trying to set her up with. Now I know some people don't like this one because it's playing on some of the Bollywood stereotypes, but I did just find it to be such an entertaining story, and I liked Dimple as a character. She's very headstrong, but she's also someone who loves her culture and loves her passion of coding and computer, which is something that I'm not that into. When I have to do coding for my blog, it boggles my mind, but I like reading characters who are all about that life. And yeah, it was just really fun, really cute, and I feel like rom-com is a term that's used pretty interchangeably with romance when it's not the same thing. Rom-com means that there's going to be comedic moments in there, and people often forget that, but I did actually find myself smiling at some of the funny moments in this one, so I would say it's a rom-com. And then for some more Afro beats kind of vibes, I've got Sorti Soul, and this is a group of male singers, and I think they do a fantastic job with their music. Not all of it is in English, I think it's Swahili, I think that's the language, so it's kind of combining those two languages. Sometimes their songs have both languages in there, and I just think that their voices tune in so well, but also their music is so lively and happy, and it makes me want to dance, kind of like Misty Easy. It gives me summer vibes. Susanna, Extravaganza, I adore it. So I wanted to again recommend another one that gives me happy vibes, that reminds me of summer and just beautiful dreams, and for that one I have to recommend Dreamology by Lucy Keating, and this is about a girl who in her dreams has this like dream boyfriend called Max, and she loves him and he's perfect, and when she moves house she goes to school one day and she finds that boy, Max, is sitting in the front of the class. So her dream boys come out of her dreams and into real life, and it goes from there. And this book wasn't the most, you know, mind-blowing or anything, but it was a lot of fun, and I always love books that focus on dreams and the concept of dreams, and I think it unpicked that theme quite well, and I liked the friendships in this. I just thought it was a really nice young adult contemporary that I don't see many people talking about. Okay, now it's time to talk about Little Mix. I've again been a fan of Little Mix for a long time, ever since they were on that talent show and then they came out with Wings. I've been following their career since then, and it is quite sad that Jessie had to leave the group recently, but the one thing that I like about them, other than their music and how they harmonise incredibly well and have such a great personality and presence as a group, I also really like their friendship, and you can just tell that all four of those girls will look out for each other, really care for each other, and I thought because of that I had to recommend a book that had friendship at the core of it. But this friendship kind of goes dark because I'm going to be recommending My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix, and I think this is my favourite Grady Hendrix that I've read so far. Haven't read all of them, and in this one it follows these two girls who have a friendship, and this is set in 1988, so it's kind of got those 1990s, 80s vibes, and yeah, it just shows the progression of their friendship, and eventually things lead to maybe the best friend needing to have an exorcism because she might be Possessed. It's pretty much that straightforward, but this one was incredibly dark, creepy and spooky. I felt like even though we're focusing on possession and exorcism, it also felt very real, as if this could happen in real life. And it was also beautiful to see how their friendship started, how their friendship progressed before, you know, everything starts to go wrong. So I'd really recommend this book. It's definitely one of the best Grady Hendrix. We're taking it back to country music, and we have to talk about Chris Stapleton, because he is absolutely amazing. His recent album is brilliant. I just think his voice is so amazing. I just don't know how to explain it. His voice is so amazing, and he has complete control over his voice as well. He knows what he's doing. What I also really like about his music is the fact that it tells a story oftentimes, whether that be a love story or an encouraging story or whatever kind of story, or just a story about someone's everyday life. And I just really love it. And I think I'm going to recommend another poetry collection, and that is Kid by Simon Armitage. And when I first read this one, it really threw me off because it's not my usual kind of poetry. It's much more casual, it's much more conversational, and it's much more nostalgic, like talking about the good old days when you used to live in this house and you used to have these certain things. And it's very specific in the images that it's trying to come across with. And even if you've never had that kind of I used to live in nature, I used to live in this particular type of house experience, you feel it from these poems. And they're very conversational and casual. There's not difficulty in understanding what the poems are talking about because it's so conversationalist. It's as if the author's just having a conversation with you about their childhood. But I also feel like there's a reoccurring character or theme that kind of threads through the poems, and if you really want to break down this collection, you can see how it interweaves, and I like that. But at the same time, you don't have to go that deep. You can just enjoy the poetry collection for the memories that it's going to bring you, even if those memories aren't your own. Right, let's talk about Tori Kelly. She's another one I knew from when she was doing covers on YouTube, and again, another singer with just a brilliant pure voice, and she kind of does different types of songs, and all of them work very well. I love her album Inspired by True Events. I think that's one of my favorites. But Tori Kelly is also a Christian, and she also has a gospel album which won a Grammy or some Grammys, and I really like how she can make a gospel album and she can also make a not gospel album, and they can both be very good, and she can be a singer known for both of those things. And as a Christian myself, I often struggle with reading Christian fiction. I don't often do it too much, but then when I don't read enough Christian fiction, I also see some representations of Christianity that I don't agree with, because Christianity has many branches. There's definitely going to be some that you don't agree with, and I really struggle to see my Christian self in literature. But there was one time that definitely happened, and oh my goodness, I felt so seen, and that was The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed. Now, The Nowhere Girls is not about Christianity, and we're not just following a Christian main character. I think there's three main characters. One of them is a Latina girl, the other one is a plus-size Christian, and then we also have an autistic main character. And this one is set in a small town where sexual assault is very prominent, and the way that men treat girls and boys treat girls in this town, it's not it. It's very bad. So some girls feel passionate about this subject, and they create the Nowhere Girls, which is a group of girls, an anonymous group of girls who decide they are going to abstain from sex of any form with their boyfriends in protest to the way that boys and men treat women in this town. And it's about the effects of this and all of that, but at the same time I really like the Us chapters because it kind of expanded the story beyond the 3 points of view we have. In the Us chapters, it goes to any girl within the town, so we get to see a bit about the trans female experience and the black female experience and such, and I just really enjoyed that it opened it up to include those discussions or touch on them a bit. But also the plus size Christian character goes to a church that is LGBT plus friendly. It was just so nice to see a representation of my beliefs that I could really relate to in a book. Next, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite female rappers at the moment, so I'm going to just group them together. We're going to talk about Nicki Minaj and Megan Thee Stallion. So Nicki Minaj has been my favorite female rapper since I was like 12. I've loved her music all the time. I think she's just unparalleled when it comes to rhythm, when it comes to just varying her tone. She just has some really fun songs, some really dancey songs. I just love Nicki Minaj so much. And then recently I've really fallen for Megan Thee Stallion. I just think she's got some really great beats, she's got some really great rhythms as well, and I just really like both of their music. Yes, some of their music is very, very sexual, and because of that I'm going to be recommending some new adult romance for them, and for them I'm going to be recommending a series that I really love, and it's called Riven by Roan Parrish. I picked up Riven by Roan Parrish because the author's name is Roan Parrish, which is one letter away from being Ronan and Parrish. That is the reason why I picked up this book. But it was so good. So Riven is the first one in this trilogy, and Riven follows Theo, and he is a rock star. He is the lead of a rock band. However, while he really likes the music and putting his passion into creating songs and singing and composing, he really doesn't like the fame, and he's trying to balance those two things out. And while he's balancing those two things out, he meets someone and they kind of have a romance going on. And I think this is a really, really good first romance in a series. The series isn't kind of like following them all the time, it goes to different characters within this world, but I really loved his passion for music and how it was explained. And I think rap as well has a good sense of music, and you kind of have to make the lyrics yourself, and Theo also writes his own lyrics, so that's the reason why I'm connecting these two. But also the heated scenes were very steamy and very well written, and actually the second book in this series is my favourite, so you should read both of them. I now want to talk about Gabrielle Aplin. She is someone I found when her song Panic Chord hit the UK charts, and since then I've really, really liked her music. She's another singer, just kind of like Tori Kelly, who just has such a pure and really good voice. I say pure really weird, that has such a pure and really good voice, and she just makes these songs that are absolutely beautiful or encouraging or about self-love, and I just love every single one. And she often does a stripped version of her songs where they're acoustic, and sometimes it's even better than the track version. It's fantastic. And she has this wonderful song that's called My Mistake, which is all about self-sabotage, and that song is why I chose Underneath It All by Patricia Vanasse to talk about. This is an indie book, and it's kind of dark academia. It's set in this school, and London is a guy who gets a scholarship to go to this school, so he's not as rich as the other students. He can't really afford it if it wasn't for the scholarship, and he kind of falls into a friendship group with the most popular people, the golden circle people, and nobody can ever break into that friendship group. But somehow he ends up in there, and there's a mystery going on at the school, and they're trying to find the answer for that. But at the same time he starts to fall for his best friend's girlfriend, and that is a trope that I guess often doesn't work for me, but in this book it really, really did, and I think it did that very well, while also avoiding any cheating, because I don't like cheating when it comes to my books. The female character often self-sabotages. She was the first person to discover her mother after her mother committed suicide, so it does go into those themes quite a lot and talk about mental health alongside the mystery, alongside the romantic situation, and it balances all of those things fantastically well, and I just adore this book. Okay, the next person I need to talk about is Rosalia, and I love Rosalia's music. I au pair in Spain sometimes, and it was the dad of the au pair family that introduced me to Rosalia. Ever since I heard the song De Plata and heard her voice control, I was hooked. And what I really like about Rosalia's music, again, is breaking it down and analysing it, because she uses, especially in her first album or her first songs that she released, she uses traditional Latin music, she combines it with contemporary and new things, and that fusion along with her amazing voice is just the perfect combination. She sings in Spanish, just so you know, but I really, really like it. And for her I'm recommending Monstrous by Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda, and this one is a graphic novel series. This is the first volume, and we follow this girl who kind of has this monster living within her as part of her, so she is struggling with this monstrous, and she also is trying to unravel some of the mysteries about her mother's past. Now this book kind of draws on some mythology as well, so I kind of like that combination of it's got the mythology but it's doing something new with it, and it's this really intricate and detailed fantasy world. The artwork, as you can just see from the cover alone, is absolutely gorgeous, and I really, really love this story. There's an adorable little foxy character that we get to meet along the way, and there's also this like wise traditional cat who is a poet, and I love him as well. And I think it really talks about trust and who you can trust and everybody having their own motivations. But I will say that a lot of people get confused in the beginning because there's so much going on. But if you read further into the series, it kind of all makes sense and interlinks, and it's hard to say like you should continue on the series and then you'll love it, but this is really the case. If you get confused by the first one, don't worry, go on to the second one, because together you're going to get some answers, you're going to see what this book is doing, and it's going to take it to unparalleled places. And last but not least, we saved the last spot for me to talk about an artist who I've listened to my whole life. With reading, I can't remember the first books that I ever read, and with this artist, I can't remember the first song of theirs I ever listened to. A lot of my music taste is kind of shared with my sisters, so what my sisters were listening to when I was younger, I was growing up with, and my sisters loved Destiny Child, and all four of us, for as long as I can remember, have just been huge fans of Beyonce. And people say that Beyonce is overrated sometimes. I just do not see it. I do not see it. Beyonce is absolutely amazing. If you just take her as a singer, she has complete control over her voice. She knows her voice incredibly well. She dances like a queen while singing. That takes some stamina, yo. And she also has like changed and morphed her career over time to suit the style that she wants to bring, to suit the themes that she wants to delve into, and the way that she fuses different types of music, like in her Lemonade album, is amazing. If you kind of analyze it and break it down, fantastic. I love how she supports other black creators. I stan now and forever, pretty much. And for Beyonce, because of her kind of transition into being a mother and how she kind of interwove motherhood into her music at some point, and she talks about blue a lot, I decided to recommend Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. And I really, really, really loved this book. So in this book, we are in this town which is very rich, it's very perfect, picture perfect, too perfect to be true, and we follow these two families. One is a poorer family that moves in, a mother-daughter duo, and they kind of rent a little area. Richardson family and the Richardson family and Mia's family become entangled, but at the same time a lawsuit is going on which also has to do with family. And I think it really does a very good job in delving into the themes of motherhood and how motherhood looks differently in the lawsuit for the Richardsons and for Mia, and how mothers can make good decisions and bad decisions. They are humans too. Mothers have different relationships with their daughters, and it just delves into that. I just can't even speak on it. It delves into that fantastically well. It does metaphor incredibly well. Little fires everywhere. Fire metaphors all over this book, raging through. I was here for it. And I think Beyonce as well sometimes has these like symbols that she brings through. She had her Sasha Fierce stage and she just moves on with different symbols, so I think the metaphor reflects that well. And then last but not least, Mia is a photographer and an artist, and she's so creative, and the way that she talks about photography in this book just inspired me. I love when people talk about their hobbies and passions and their careers in books, and I feel like Beyonce is just very passionate about her music and making sure her music reflects all of her ideologies as well. So I think it suits this book in that way too. I did not expect this video to be this long, but I just have a lot to say about music, artists, and also books. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know in the comment section down below who is your favorite music artist at the moment. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have another video. And you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior!